The final image of Bed Bath & Beyond is not a warm memory of a crowded store. It is a closing sign. It is a liquidation message. It is the old promise of a deal turned into the last deal the store can offer. That is the whole title in one frame. The coupon empire ran out of time. The strange part is not that a weak retailer failed. The strange part is that this was a familiar brand with a habit customers understood. People knew the store. People knew the bargain ritual. People knew the feeling of waiting for the next coupon. But the coupons were not enough because the problem was bigger than a discount. The approved story is a chain reaction. Buybacks, weak merchandising, online pressure, and turnaround delays all met at the worst possible moment. So this video is not asking why people forgot Bed Bath & Beyond. It is asking why a brand so familiar could still become a bankruptcy and store closing story. At first, Bed Bath & Beyond looked like the kind of retailer that should have more time. It had a name people recognized. It had stores people could picture without an explanation. It had a simple role in the shopping landscape. When you needed things for the home, this was one of the obvious stops. That kind of familiarity can feel like safety. A known sign on a familiar road can make a business look permanent, even when the business underneath is becoming fragile. The coupon habit made that feeling stronger. It gave customers a reason to think of the store as a place where patience paid off. Wait, clip, search, bring the deal with you, and the visit feels smarter. But customer habit is not the same as customer loyalty. Habit can keep people aware of a brand while they slowly need it less. That is the contradiction at the center of the story. The store was not invisible. The ritual was not confusing. The problem was that recognition and routine could not stop the clock. That is the danger of a retail memory. It can make the store feel culturally present while the economics quietly ask for a new reason to visit. The coupon was more than marketing decoration. In this story, it was the emotional contract between the store and the customer. Bed Bath & Beyond taught shoppers to feel smart for waiting. The trip did not just promise towels, storage bins, bedding, or small household needs. It promised the satisfaction of beating the shelf price. That can be powerful because a coupon turns a normal purchase into a little win. It makes the shopper feel prepared. It makes the store feel generous. It gives the brand a repeatable role in the customer's mind. But that same promise has a shadow. When a retailer trains people to expect a discount, the regular price becomes harder to believe. When the deal becomes the reason to visit, the merchandise has to work even harder to justify the trip. The habit that once pulled people in can become the thing that defines the entire business. And here's where the trap starts to close. While customers remembered the coupon, the company still had to solve money, merchandising, online pressure, and time. The cleanest way to understand the collapse is not as one bad event. It is a machine with several parts turning together. The local source framing names buybacks, weak merchandising, online pressure, and turnaround delays. Each one matters on its own, but the damage comes from the combination. Buybacks point to opportunity cost. Money used to support the financial story is money that is not solving the store story. Weak merchandising means the customer has fewer reasons to browse beyond the old bargain ritual. Online pressure means the physical trip is no longer automatic. Turnaround delays mean the fixes arrive while confidence is already fading. None of that requires a dramatic single villain. Retail declines often become dangerous because small delays stack up. A store can look normal while the model beneath it is losing room to move. The important point is sequence. If capital choices and customer reasons weaken before a turnaround proves itself, the company is trying to repair two clocks at once. That is what makes Bed Bath & Beyond useful as a corporate graveyard case. The collapse was not just the end of a coupon culture. It was the cost of acting as if the old formula only needed more time. Now put online pressure against that old coupon habit. The coupon used to make the store trip feel like an event. You had a reason to go. You had a little mission. You could leave with bags and the feeling that the trip paid off. But once shoppers can compare choices and solve more of the same needs without making that trip, the coupon has to do a different job. It is no longer just a reward. It has to overcome friction. It has to make the drive, the search, the aisle, and the checkout feel worth it. The old coupon could answer price, but it could not answer convenience by itself. That is a much harder burden. Online pressure does not have to erase every customer at once. It only has to make enough visits feel optional. And if a visit is optional, the store has to be sharper. The merchandise has to be clearer. The value has to be more convincing than a familiar logo and a discount habit. This is where the old bargain machine starts to look slower than the market around it. And even if online pressure had been the only problem, the store still needed a better reason to be worth the trip. That reason was merchandising. In plain terms, merchandising is the answer to a basic customer question. Why should I browse here, today, instead of solving this somewhere else? A coupon can get someone through the door, but it cannot make every shelf feel relevant. It cannot make a weak assortment feel exciting. It cannot replace the pleasure of discovering something that makes the trip feel useful. That is why weak merchandising is such a dangerous pressure in this story. Bed Bath & Beyond needed more than memory. It needed stores that gave shoppers a clear reason to care before the discount did all the work. If the store experience weakens, the coupon becomes less like a bonus and more like a crutch. A stronger assortment might have made online comparison feel less threatening. A weaker one made the comparison feel obvious. Customers may still know the brand, but the visit loses urgency. The business then has to spend energy defending the old habit while also rebuilding the reason for the habit to exist. That is a hard turnaround in any retail environment. It is even harder when the financial clock is already louder and online alternatives keep pulling at the same customer. This is where time becomes the real villain. A turnaround is not just a plan on paper. In retail, it has to be visible fast enough for customers, employees, suppliers, and investors to believe the business still has direction. If the customer sees the same weak reasons to visit, the turnaround sounds abstract. If the supplier senses distress, the turnaround gets harder to execute. If employees feel uncertainty, the store experience can get worse exactly when it needs to improve. The approved angle names turnaround delays, and that matters because delay changes the meaning of every later move. A fix that might have looked bold earlier can look desperate later. A store reset that might have bought time earlier can look like proof that the old model is already broken. That is the cruel math of a late turnaround. By then, every delay becomes information. The market reads hesitation as weakness, and the store has to prove the opposite in public. The company is trying to rebuild confidence while every visible sign of distress makes confidence harder to rebuild. Once that clock runs out, the story stops being about coupons and starts being about bankruptcy, liquidation, and what happens when a familiar retailer loses the room to keep experimenting. Bankruptcy is a legal and financial event, but for shoppers it becomes something much simpler. It becomes becomes the sign in the window. It becomes the emptying store. It becomes the message that the old relationship is ending. That is why the closing sale images are so important for this episode. They turn a corporate failure into a public scene. Bed Bath & Beyond had trained customers to wait for a better deal, and the final version of that promise was liquidation. Everything must go as the darkest possible version of the coupon logic. The discount is no longer a reason to come back. It is a signal that the store may not come back at all. Liquidation also changes the customer's incentive. The smartest shopper is no longer loyal, just early to the final markdown. That reversal is the emotional payoff of the title. The same bargain habit that once made customers feel clever now sits next to the evidence that the business has run out of choices. The source materials are weighted toward that ending bankruptcy, liquidation, store closing signs, closed storefronts, and customers leaving with bags. The collapse is not abstract. It is visible, and it is visible in the exact language retail uses when time is gone. The human scale consequence is quieter than the financial story, but it is what people actually see. A familiar stop disappears. A routine changes. A store that once felt like part of the background turns into a closed storefront. That matters because corporate graveyards are not only about bad spreadsheets. They are about systems that once looked permanent and then become ordinary evidence of decline. The asset packet shows this clearly. Closed stores, exterior signs, liquidation scenes, and shoppers leaving with bags. Those images do not prove every detail of the strategy, but they do prove the public texture of the ending. The brand is no longer speaking through a coupon in a mailbox or a familiar storefront on a weekend errand. It is speaking through store closing signs. And once that happens, the customer relationship has changed. The shopper may still remember the old version. The name may still be familiar, but the living habit is gone. The broader lesson is bigger than one chain. A brand can be famous and still be strategically late. Recognition buys attention. It does not buy unlimited time. So why was familiarity not enough? Because the pieces of the failure attack different parts of the same machine. Buybacks raised the question of what the company chose to support while the store story weakened. Weak merchandising reduced the reason to browse. Online pressure made the trip less automatic. Turnaround delays made every fixed fight against a faster clock. The coupon habit connected all of it because it kept the brand in the customer's mind while also training the customer to expect the deal before the visit felt complete. That is the corporate lesson. Traffic bought with discounts is not the same as durable relevance. A known logo is not the same as a compelling store. A financial move is not a substitute for a better shopping reason. That is the point of the counterfactual. Not that one clean decision would have saved everything, but that earlier credibility creates options. If the stores had offered a clearer reason to browse sooner, the coupon could have remained a bonus instead of a burden. If the turnaround had landed before confidence broke, the old familiarity might have bought more time. But the version that happened was harsher. The company had memory. It had habit. It did not have enough time. That is the final warning from Bed Bath & Beyond. Do not confuse a customer habit with time. A habit can make a brand feel safer than it is. It can hide weakness because people still recognize the name, still remember the store, and still know the ritual. But when the business needs real change, habit alone cannot carry the turnaround. The coupon empire ran out of time because the old bargain machine could not solve the new pressure fast enough. Buybacks, weak merchandising, online pressure, and delayed fixes turned a familiar store into a liquidation image. That is why the closing sale frame is so powerful. It pays off the title, the thumbnail, and the whole promise of the episode at once. The coupons were not enough because the real product Bed Bath & Beyond needed to sell was confidence that the store still mattered. By the end, the most convincing message in the window was not come back later with a coupon. It was the opposite. Come now, because this may be the end. The after image is simple. A famous sign, a familiar habit, and a clock that the old model could not outrun. And the next corporate graveyard story starts the same way. Everyone knows the brand until knowing it stops being enough.